أهلا وسهلا بكم جميعا في بودكاست تجربة طالب في تعلم اللغة الإنجليزية من ماليزيا. دعونا نبدأ. Hello Muhammad, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm fine, I am good. So Muhammad, so I want you to introduce yourself to everybody here who is gonna listen to the podcast. So tell us about who you are and what you are doing in this life.
Oh, okay. So I'm actually an engineer. I've studied my bachelor degree in Malaysia for about 4 to 5 years. Yeah, I did my bachelor degree in engineering, and then I've worked a lot. I've worked in engineering. I've worked mostly in marketing as well. Um, and after that, I started work. When I went to China, I also worked there, and I also did my master's degree in China in international business, basically. Yeah. So just a small brief about me. I don't like to talk much about
Oh, okay.
myself,
Oh,
but
okay.
yeah,
That's good that we know all that. So I know that you learned English long time ago. Okay.
yeah,
So and most of the students have different native language. So when they come
yeah,
to Malaysia, they must speak English fluently, and some of them they can adopt different language easily, and some of them they are not.
mm,
So I want to know, I mean, if you could help a student, I want to ask you a couple of questions regarding this topic.
mhm.
How could a student learn English so effectively? I mean, in a short time or in a long time, but
Mm.
just give us like effective ways of doing this.
Well, there's always an effective way to look after, and actually it depends on the person himself, like which level is he starting from the moment he arrives Malaysia, whatever that guy is or that girl is. If they're a really beginner level and they haven't really tried to study that rigorously, it's going to be really hard in the beginning, and it might
Mm-hmm.
take one to 1.5 year. Depends on the also the familiarity with the course, with English in general. So there's some people who actually watch a lot of TV
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of English movies or American movies. So those ones I found it always easier for them to actually learn, because they are basically always listening to these things, and
Mm-hmm.
it's not really a strange language. It becomes also harder when it's very strange language and you have never basically watched or followed something in that language. So I'm not sure how can I really. Fit.
Mm-hmm.
There's no specific fit size all. Yeah, it's not a stretch. Like it depends on the person. Of course, there's different ways I can tell you about it from my
Mm-hmm.
own experience.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, there's
I
no
mean,
one size fit all basically. So it
yeah.
depends on the person. What I'm saying is, it depends on the person. Like you have to know yourself firstly, and how
Uh-huh.
do you absorb knowledge. So you start with a specific goal every time. Say per
Mm-hmm.
week you have like to finish a couple of hours. In those hours, you actually have a specific task. Like let's say I'm gonna study half an hour listening, then half an hour reading, and half an hour writing, and maybe half an hour grammar. You have to stick with that. Consistency is the key to everything. Even if you don't know much, if you don't understand much from what you have read, but
Mm-hmm.
consistency with work is really important. Yeah, and at the
Mm-hmm.
moment you stop, especially in the beginning stages, you will lose everything you have learned.
So,
And so yeah,
yeah.
so basically that's the main thing. Consistency is the major key for those
Mm-hmm.
who still starting to begin study English. It's always hard in the beginning. In the beginning, you have to really sit down and maybe spend 4 to 5 hours a day for like 3, 4, 5, 6 months. It depends on the person as well and how much they absorb. So the time frame in the beginning would be 6 months. After that, I would suggest once you know the structure of the whole language, like you have at least went through the grammar in a whole once through these grammar books.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, After that, you know the structure. You can't remember everything. It's really hard to remember everything. Get yourself, if you're in Malaysia, then get yourself in an environment where you can find people or friends who speak the language all the time. It doesn't matter
Okay.
how much you know. So that will cut to the like will basically shorten your time learning the language.
Okay.
If you don't have these environments, basically there is also applications where
Mhm.
you can find language partners where you exchange languages. You might teach them your own uh, language, and they will teach you English in exchange.
Okay, so it
Yeah.
seems that you speak English very confident. I mean, it's like you are native. So, is there any particular routine that you have used, a long time ago in order for you to be better in English? I mean, to speak confidently without worrying what other people might think of me or might think of my language. Is there any routines that you have used?
Oh, I I generally don't like to study much, to be honest. So I find it really easy if you can just find people who you can practice with, mostly
Mm-hmm.
friends, someone on the street, maybe the barber shop who speaks a little English, or maybe a partner from one of these apps. At least speak some. So you study for 3 4 hours, like to say primarily, and then
Mm-hmm.
you move on to practice somehow one of these three words you have learned today. Otherwise, you won't have the sense of the language. It will be hard. It's like a taste. If you don't really try to speak it, even if it doesn't make sense, even if other people laugh. And thankfully, if you are really afraid, you can find people who are on the internet wants to exchange languages. So that's not a problem nowadays for me. Back then,
Mm-hmm.
I actually had to suffer and actually go through getting to know friends, and bit by bit you start getting confidence. But another part of finding the environment might not really suit you. These friends might not have the same interest as you, so you find it also hard to actually stick around. So also finding the environment is really hard. So I'm not
Mm-hmm.
sure, but the only thing you gotta try is just keep
Mm-hmm.
doing it. Try find people living on the internet. If you can do
Okay.
that for like half an hour every day, then speaking even rubbish language, just explain what you've done in the day, or whatever you have learned in that day in terms of grammar, whatever that is, then bring
Mm-hmm.
it to the table and ask the partner, what is this thing? What is this word? How can I use that one? So at least you get
Oh.
some sense of the language instead of just depending on yourself. I would say here the feedback loop mechanism is really good, because even if you're starting, let's say if I had to do it all over again, I would have a partner from day one. So I will study grammar. Let's say one thing in grammar. Let's say simple present or simple past, and then discuss those things with my partner. The more you set an appointment with him. So if it's every day, that's good. If it's not, then twice a week, whenever he's free,
Mm-hmm.
and then yeah, you keep on doing it just little by bit, a little. And even if you prepare a small paragraph and you actually read that to him, and maybe you discuss about the little things, the little pieces here or there, that
Mm-hmm.
will make you understand much than just sitting alone and studying by yourself. A teacher will help as well a lot actually. The
Uh-huh.
teacher speaks good English, then um, it's good. Like one of the things that he can practice with you is actually speaking with you,
Oh, okay, that's
and
good.
probably correct you on the grammar basis. Like, okay, you shouldn't do this, you should do this, because this grammar exists here, it doesn't exist there. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
you won't find it. You wouldn't find it, or you won't find friends or partners from apps that know much of grammar and actually show you where did you do the mistakes. Maybe a teacher, private teacher, would be also a good one. But if you can't afford that, then find a teacher who actually teaches a lot of students, but also engages only in conversation. So you want to be in conversation, you want to be in the environment. Like there's
Uh-huh.
groups, I think, in Facebook, I'm not sure, but you can look it up and send it to them.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
good. Okay, so based on your experience, I mean, what is the really, I mean, the most effective strategy? I mean, for students who really want to get an IELTS, they are coming to me and they ask me, Teacher Sarah, we really want to know the effective strategy we want to learn in 3 months. So, based on your experience, what do you think the most effective strategy that could a student learn in 3 months
I don't think anybody can learn a language from zero in 3 months. It's almost
Hmm.
impossible.
Okay.
Yeah, you need to have a patience. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
a minimum time, I would say a year. With
Mm-hmm.
that time, you would also need to have to be good in a language, like some friends, an environment that makes you talk. Because if you don't talk, you're not really testing your ability, or what you have already understood. Does that word play in this context? Can I build it this way? Do people actually understand what I said? And then when you have people around you, you get that feedback always. Within a
Mm-hmm.
year, if you start from zero, probably it depends on the
Mm-hmm.
familiarity with the language itself. Because someone who would never have studied English, but always watching American movies, then I think it's much easier than those who never really have had
Yeah, I
any
heard.
exposure to it.
Mm-hmm. Okay,
So
so
you can't put like I think another thing you said, exams, IELTS.
mm,
There are people who already speak and know the language, but probably not really efficient at it. Like the ability is not high, where they don't speak really fluently, or maybe they can't really cope up with the speed of the listening exams or the listening section in the exam. That comes with practice. So the person needs to practice a lot of exams, get familiar with the timing, the
mm-hmm.
timing frame, because it also that add pressure. Even if you know the language, you need to really put yourself in those time frames, and you see whether you excel in it or not. So the exam is another part. Exam is more of a preparation than just knowing the language itself, I think.
Okay.
Really have to prepare for those exams. Print out a lot of IELTS sample tests and sample answers, and then put yourself, for example, in a writing test. Put yourself like take a half an hour, and because I think is it 40 minutes? I'm not sure the writing in the IELTS exam. So if it's 40 minutes, just put 30 minutes and see whether you can do that perfectly
Mm,
the way they asked for it.
okay.
Uh,
So
so a lot of practice. For 3 months, you need a lot of practice. Just practicing past IELTS exam. It will also get you familiar with a lot of topics, general topics like healthcare, transportation, the new technologies. It's also an add up for your own, knowledge. So it's
okay.
not a waste of time, but also you get familiar with so many topics. So
Okay.
I think
So
going for the past papers is a good option.
uh-huh. Okay. So do you have like any resources, the useful resources before you start learning the language? Have you used like did you prepare different resources like this kind of website you have used or anything? Have you prepared any resources before starting learning?
Start learning what for the exam or just a language?
For the exam, and also the language
I
itself.
can't remember. I've actually tried a couple of times. There was
Mm-hmm.
some pages. Actually, a friend of mine was asking me about this today. I told him I don't remember the URL.
Mm-hmm.
There's a paper. Yeah, there's a website where you can download about 20 or 30 past papers with sample answers, with
Mm.
actually model answers. Um, so if I can find it, I'll send it to you guys.
Okay,
I would
so
myself, I would really print it out and try to exam. Every day I'll do one exam. By the time
mm-hmm.
you reach to the 20th exam, then you go back from the beginning because you'll
Mm-hmm.
be forgetting that as well. So you should just get yourself into the mode of the exam itself. Put a timer, practice it, and keep on doing it. So I would say in short, yeah, for the IELTS, I'm not. You're asking since you're asking about this, so let's finish it. For
Okay.
the for there's four parts in the IELTS exam. There's listening.
Mm-hmm.
So you go to YouTube. There's so many channels. So you write IELTS listening test, whether it's general or academic,
Okay.
and it's half an hour. So you put headset, sit for half an hour, and try to answer this thing.
Mm-hmm.
And see by the end of the exam, they will show you the model answers. So compare it with yours and give yourself a mark. And do
Mm-hmm.
that every day for the listening. The same speaking is you need some people to speak with. I'm not sure how can you implement that. It depends on your situation. If you're in Malaysia and studying in one of these universities, then it's easy to get around people, maybe find people or ask people around if they can sit with you, talk to you in English and practice for the like find a way to speak. Otherwise it's gonna be hard. The hardest
Okay.
it's actually the easiest skill speaking, but it's the hardest thing to actually perfect because you need people to give you feedback on your your own speaking ability. Then
Okay.
writing is mostly about how to express yourself. It's not much like you need the language, you need to have a proper command in grammar, you need ability to really set things up and know the format, and that's actually not that hard. You need a bit of uh, vocabulary there. You need a bit of vocabulary to help you out to write a complete writing paragraph, like the whole writing thing. So that will be around 40 minutes. Also, what I used to do basically bring these topics and think about the ideas that I'm gonna use in my writing. So instead of really wasting so like um one of the one of the training I did myself is by bringing the topic, think about the ideas, write it down in a paper, and I've created with that a mind map that for every topic I have like 3 or 4 ideas. So once I go into the exam, basically I know the ideas. I won't think about the ideas. I will think about how to structure my things and write correctly. And so I'll just write the idea on the side, and structure in my first paragraph this way or second paragraph this way, and I come up with the conclusion. Maybe you can I can share with that uh, properly later
Okay.
with you, so you can
Okay.
really
So,
share it with all.
so there is an academic stress, Muhammad, and stress involving the future were too much for students nowadays to handle and to manage, especially when it comes to understand the language. So,
Hmm.
how much time? I mean, if you could advise a student, how much time should he invest, or her or she invest daily in learning process? And what is the learning method is best for most students? I mean, you could advise them, okay, if you could use this method, surely you will end up speaking English. And how much
I,
time they could invest daily?
I told you there is no one size fit all. There is no specific strategy for everybody. Everybody have to find by himself the right strategy.
Mhm.
And there's probably a lot of things on the internet on how to study. So I'm not gonna give you any much here because I don't think I can add value. You go to YouTube and find uh, so many ways to study English or any language in that matter. What I'm concerned with is basically how to find the right approach for you. So find a couple of approaches. Like this week, go on the internet and search the best way to study grammar or the best way to study listening. Yeah, and then
Mhm.
really structure your own week with those strategies.
So what was the
And then
best way for
so
you?
what
I mean, I'm asking you, what
for
was the
me,
best for you? Yeah, the best way. I mean, the best way that really helped you.
I'm all over the place. I'm a kind of guy who actually tries a lot of things. Yeah, so I
Uh-huh.
start with one thing this week. The moment I get really bored of it, like
Uh-huh.
I will shift the strategy to another thing. So probably
uh,
this week I'll be reading stories and trying to analyze these stories and really saying it out loud. And then
mm,
I'll be in 2 weeks time. I'll be bored of it. I feel like I can't keep with one schedule. What most important for myself is just to keep doing it.
oh,
So
okay.
if boredom gonna kill my consistency, I will
Mm,
shift it to something new. So I keep it alive.
mm,
And I can't tell you the number of approaches I've used. So there's so many of them. You can go search online. There's-
mhm. Okay, so how much time do you think that they have to commit into these goals?
I told you it depends on the person. If they start from zero, probably 1 year, 1 year and a half. Some people go to 2 years.
Mm,
But if you are studying in a very good college, and some you can find also a teacher that really can pushes you, or an institute that bring like a lot of exams. Like every week you'd have an exam, like an intensive course that would help you a lot. Actually helps you really, really a lot. If you can get
uh-huh.
an intensive course for like 6 months, that will push you so hard. But it depends. There's
Okay.
but
No,
there's one thing I've actually wanted to
okay.
add in terms of my
Mm,
strategy. I've used to watch a series called Friends.
friends.
It's a comedy series. It has 10 seasons.
Mhm,
Mm, Although I don't really push for so much movies nowadays, because I'm actually also studying Dutch or German.
mhm.
I'm not watching a lot of movies. I don't find Dutch movies are any good, or at least I wouldn't push it so hard for for learning English. Like the same thing. I wouldn't push so much nowadays for the movies. But this series has comedy, light. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
the language is so simple and very expressive, and you also, at the same time, if you really enjoy it and love the series, you will learn so much how to speak, how the
Mm-hmm.
Americans speak, and I've watched it over and over. One thing really helped me a lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
Studying grammar, I actually knew everything. Like I studied really good grammar as well.
Mm-hmm.
So that and this, I didn't read much. A lot of people say reading actually gonna help you in understanding the language or being or makes you able to speak it. I haven't read so much. I still read randomly when I'm interested. Also, one thing you could do as well, find any rubbish thing you're interested in. If you're interested in football, read something about football. You shouldn't read something really
Mm.
smart. You just read junk food or
Oh,
junk writing. As
okay.
long as you like it, just read it.
Oh, okay.
So much better than
There
the
is
better.
one challenge for most students when they come to Malaysia, They come to
Okay.
Malaysia and they, work and study with their own nationality. I mean, with their own groups instead
Mm.
of meeting English speaker. So, and they will not learn quickly by doing this thing. So, any
Yeah, yeah.
particular advice for people who wants to learn and overcome this challenge actually because it becomes a challenge for them, They have like their cousin, they have a group of people who speak the same like Arabic and they want to learn English but they don't know how to do it because there is a challenge there, so they want to overcome it. So how they can over? You advise them to cut everyone off and just go ahead and find people who
I
speak
wouldn't say a
English.
good idea to actually no. I don't. I wouldn't say a good idea to cut everyone, but at the same
Mm-hmm.
time, you wouldn't. It's not wise to actually waste your time spending it mostly with people. You're
Mm-hmm.
in the university years. You should really be reading a lot, using every minute, right? If you focus on the language, just find like set a time where you try to find people who speak the language. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
like really just ignoring people and not responding their messages anymore is not the solution. They'll have to know you're an organized person and you're actually maybe doing study or busy. So
Mm-hmm.
don't compromise with your own time. Be
Mm-hmm.
honest and just focus on this thing. Yeah, you can still visit them. You can't just cut people off. People need people, and it's actually very important sometimes.
Okay.
But
So,
mostly focus on your goals. So find people who speak the language. Even set up like an appointment, like twice a week. You go to someone and you speak to him and you sit with him. You do
mm-hmm.
that consistently. And if you have like let's say you have five partners, like in college, like go down in them, find people who speak it, and propose the idea whether you can teach them or they can teach you, or maybe just randomly go into friends where they sit around and maybe get to know them. So you'll find a friend there, and then you start, uh, cre- creating an environment. Basically, when you become friends, it's easier just to go around together and spend much time, and so it's a good way to actually speak a lot during this time. Finding
Okay.
friends is the best way to go. But if you can't, then just spoke and propose to people this idea where you can teach them maybe your language and they'll help you in the other way around. And I find it always the case. People, if they're not serious and they like your personality, they'll stay friends with you. So maybe
Mm-hmm.
in the beginning it might come up as a proposal, but then they'll become your friends. And if they're not really serious about your language, they will just talk to you in English. So it's a win-win after all. And it worked a lot
Uh,
for me. So.
okay, that's good. Okay, so last but not least, do you think some people they prefer self-study mostly over like over they can if they can have a guidance or a teacher in order for them to be better in English. So what do you think mostly? What do you prefer for your own self? Self-study or you
I mean,
prefer to
in
have
the beginning,
guidance?
it actually depends on the person. So I can't say it's the same.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the best way to go is to if you are able to actually study by yourself. It is really good because you don't need that then anybody. And I'm talking
Mm-hmm.
about English, like the grammar, maybe the writing, and all these things. And even those things like grammar and writing, you need to find out. Okay, once you finish writing or like going for a grammar exam just to see your level of grammar, make sure you have a sample answer or model answer where you can go back and reflect on your work whether you did good or not.
Mm-hmm.
That's in terms of grammar. Let's say writing, you need someone to really correct what you have written. So if you
Mm-hmm.
are blessed and staying in one of these campuses, it's easy to find someone to correct your grammar. Don't be shy. Yeah, you might need a little bit of confidence to go come up to people and ask them things,
Mm-hmm.
but you'll eventually find someone who wants to help you out. So
Okay.
don't just depend on your study. Study if you can really study by yourself, that's the best way to go, and really seek feedback every time you do things. Uh, if you can't, then a teacher is the proper way to go, just to push you so hard in the beginning, maybe the first month, and then you really try to fly from there.
Ah, that's good. Okay, so do you have any additional thing you wanted to add up here?
I mean, language learning is a must. I mean, if you don't, English is a really important language. Everything is being produced or written nowadays in English. And if you're not learning English properly, and
Mm-hmm.
if you're not taking it seriously, it's gonna be really hard for you to really cope with the world that we are actually in. And you're missing a lot of actually leisure, and then not leisure, but a lot of quality life, a lot of good book reading in the future. Once you start reading, and it becomes one of your habits, which I recommend. A lot of people should start reading. In
Mm-hmm.
the beginning, even if it's junk food, then start reading it. So there's a lot of information out there. So it's only presented in English, and if you're not speaking it and properly really, or you don't have the good ability for reading or actually speaking it, then you're missing a lot. And so I advise a lot of people to work with it seriously. So it's only 1 year. It might seem hard, but it will come.
Mm-hmm.
And consistency, I told you, is a good way to go. But just don't ever depend. Language is a you need people to hear you talk, and you need to hear yourself being correct. Put
Mm-hmm.
yourself in those
Yeah,
situations,
yeah, I
and
think it's important.
it will be easy. Even if you don't know much and you can't talk letters, find like short stories in English and find someone who can speak it, and maybe sit like half an hour uh, from now and then, and actually tell you, like let you read the story and explain it and explain it in English. Shouldn't include another language. Like if you can't understand the grammar or you can't understand the words, you will just make him try to do just sign language. Don't
Mm-hmm.
connect. Also, this is a good advice. Yeah, don't connect English with another language. Don't connect English with your mother tongue. Yeah,
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
yeah.
So just learn it
And
and speak it and don't be
stay away
afraid and
from,
have confidence.
yeah, just have confidence. Stay away from just sticking with your own people, countrymates. Don't spend much time with them. Yeah, spend. Don't cut them off completely, but at the same time, you're here for a reason. So
Mm-hmm.
use it wisely.
Okay, thank you, Muhammad, for joining us. I mean, in this podcast, I hope that everybody can get this information and use it. I mean, it's really a wise and beneficial information for everyone, especially for those who want to learn English. Thank you, Muhammad, for
My
joining
pleasure.
us. I mean, we would like, inshallah, in the future, maybe we could meet up and discuss about more things in this life. Okay. So thank
All
you
right.
so much, Muhammad.
Purely about the English, no problem. Life, I'm not sure. I'm not a teacher of life, but it's my pleasure, and I will. Yeah.
Okay,
Hopefully, we can
okay.
talk again. My
Thank you.
pleasure. Uh,
Yeah, thank you so much, Muhammad. See you
yeah.
later.
No
See you.
problem.
Assalamu
Yeah.
alaikum.
Yeah. Bye bye.